Finally, Deion Sanders, 14 players leave. I said earlier, transfer portal, 90% of the players that you get or leaving are not foundational. Quarterbacks matter more than any. I don't look at this as he's got a sales pitch. Some kids fall in love with the pitch and move on. What do you make of what's happening to Colorado?
I think it's kind of reflective of a lot of what's going on actually around the country, just to not to the same degree. And I don't want to say this is the exact or this is a CU thing, but I think one thing I'm hearing a lot of in this cycle is you're seeing a lot of kids go back into the portal and after not being in there very long. And what is happening is a lot of players are finding out that the things they're being told they think they're getting aren't exactly what they're getting. They're not getting that much because they may be told, yeah, it's going to be $400,000 or it's going to be $200,000, but it's a car that you're getting a rental. You don't own it. So it's not like you or I could turn around and sell it. Right. It's a house that you have access to, but you don't own it. So there's some of those things that I think are tough for a lot of the kids to figure out right now. They think they're getting one thing, they're not. There's a lot of times I've heard stories of guys who think they're getting 800,000 or 900,000. They maybe end up with 200,000. So you get some frustration on that end. I don't think this is, in Deion's case at CU, they were so bad when he got there, and he made a huge overhaul of the program. And I think a lot of it is now you've had a handful of assistants. Sean Lewis's offense coordinator is now the head coach at San Diego State. So you've had some people come and go. I suspect, especially with Shador there, they will go as they go into a new league from 1 win to 4 wins, at least to, I think 8. I get it. I think they will be significantly better. I don't know how much better than 8, but I wouldn't. You're going to see a lot of guys, especially with grad transfers, come and go.
Yeah.
And I just think that people are looking for the right fit. And sometimes people are constantly hitting the reset button, like the kid on the video game who doesn't like the start of it. And then all of a sudden, like, let me start that all over
again. Good seeing you, bud.
Yeah. So I have a few thoughts about this. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not. But then, I think Deion is kind of a fraud. I really, really do. He is deceitful. He is kind of a snake oil salesman. I'm going to come on a little strong, and I don't mean to say, I'm not going to try to say that he's trash, that he's garbage, that he's, sleazy in that regard, because I think he believes he's being genuine and authentic, but I don't believe that he actually inherently is. I think Deion cares most about himself. And you can see that in the way how he sells his brand, Coach Prime and all that. I mean, when you see them running out before the game, you see more Coach Prime stuff than anything else. And I just hate that. He's always all about selling and marketing his brand, but then he goes and says it's about the kids. He says that, essentially like God told him that, this was his way to like help kids and all of that. And I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. And, he just lies, because when he won that first game last season or whatever, he was all like, that's right. You guys all thought that I couldn't do it. Here we are. We're here. Let's go. I kept receipts. And then a few games later, when things started to unravel, they then ask him like, oh, what about all this noise? What do you think about people saying that, you're over your head and all this? And he goes, I don't pay attention to any of that. I don't pay attention to why do I care what the media thinks about me? And it's like, bro, in an earlier press conference, you said you keep receipts, which means of course you care, which means you're listening to all this stuff. You only keep receipts if you care. You only keep receipts if you hear what's being told. So then he then lies and says, I don't even listen to any of that stuff. I don't care. Why do I care about your opinions? So he's just inconsistent. He's dishonest. And I think he's a great salesman in that regard. And so when you're young, when you're a young kid, 17, 18-year-old kid, and your parents, and you're listening to the sales pitch, and he's telling you, I'm going to get you to greatness, let's go. I've been seduced by coaches like that in the past. I've had coaches that you hang on to every word they have to say, and you buy it, you buy in all of it, and you're just like, oh my God, this guy is going to get me to greatness. He is going to get me into the league. All I do is have to follow him, and I will get there. And it's no matter what he's talking about, whatever the coach is talking about, it's just that charisma. And you just buy in. And then one day it's like, you snap out of it. And I don't know if it's because you get old enough, or because you start to think more clearly on your own behalf, or if it's because the results aren't what you were originally promised, and you just spend more time with them, and now you start to see through them more, and then that illusion gets shattered. And now you're like, all right, like, yeah, you know your stuff, you're a good guy, a good coach, but like, I don't know about you. I want to see what else is out there, actually. And I think that's what happens with Deion. And I think what he does with his players the juice is not worth the squeeze. The atmosphere, his attitude, the way how he creates an environment within the locker room, on the practice field, all this type of stuff, I guarantee you it's not fun to be around. And I guarantee you, unless your last name is Sanders, you're probably not having a lot of fun. And you probably don't really feel like, you're part of something special as much as this illusion makes it look like. Especially when you're not winning. If they were winning, everyone's on that bandwagon, it's all fun. You got rappers there and The Rock or whatever, and, Obama and all that nonsense. And that's all great until the dust settles. Until you realize, well, wait a second. Where do I stand in all of this? So I'm not surprised that there's this mass transfer exodus, because you could even hear what Deion says. When those players left, he said, again, he talked out of both sides out of his mouth, because he said on one side, oh, I wish those kids the best. I wish them the best. They're great. I want to see them all succeed, blah, 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 blah. But then he goes on and says, we don't need those players. They're not important to us. They're not like, none of them are starters. We don't need them. They're not important to us. That's exactly why those players left. Because they know you don't care about them. They don't feel like being part of this program that doesn't want anything to do with them. That cares way more about the big sunglasses, that gigantic cross around your neck, where it says Coach Prime on the sleeve, rather than CU, where it's about you, Sanders, and about your sons, and about your brand, and Coach Prime. I don't want to be part of that. I've been coached by a coach who made it all about him. And it was not fun. Yep, he was technically the best coach I ever had. And, was a pro himself. And, had a lot of success. And created his own little empire. But it was also some of the worst years of my life. No question. Did I improve? Absolutely. Did I get better? Absolutely. But it was some of the worst times of my life. Just brutal. Brutal, 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 brutal. And if you said, hey, would you do it all again? My answer? No, I would not. I absolutely would not. Now, maybe if I went on to make millions upon millions of dollars playing in the pros, maybe then I would say, yeah, it was all worth it. But I didn't. I didn't get that opportunity to make all the money in the world in the pros. I got as far as I could. I had my successes. And again, maybe if I got farther, then I would say, yeah, it was all worth it. It's part of the process, blah, 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 blah. But it's not. And the truth is that majority of these players are not going, they're not going to be making, they're not going to get that $150, $200 million contract in the pros. It's just not going to happen. And so it's kind of like, why be here? Why be part of this atmosphere? Why be part of this circus? And when you're not, especially also when you're not a star, so to speak, it's actually easier for you to see through the BS and the illusions of the coach. You can see through it more clearly because you're taking a step back. You're not in the games as much. You're on the sidelines. You see the practices farther. You see what's happening. You're not being yelled at as much, or you're not being coached as hard, and you're seeing everyone else. So you're able to see. You're able to observe. That's why the best coaches oftentimes are nowhere near the best players. The players that end up becoming the best coaches are the players that were pretty good. They were good. They could hang. But they weren't elite. They weren't these Hall of Famers next level. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes aren't the guys that end up becoming coaches. It's the guys that were able to hang, but, not the true stars. because they take a step back and they're able to absorb things. They also have less to do theoretically, you know? So they're able to observe more. And so those are the players that are leaving because they're like, I see right through you. I see through your nonsense. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you think about Deion Sanders and the whole fact that, you know, there's a transfer exodus? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really, really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.